minus 2 plus 3 rad x plus 5. That rule does all of them. What I might do before I do the antiderivative is I might rewrite that radical as what? 3x to the 1/2. Now let's use that rule and find the antiderivative. Now wait! Notice integrating the 5 was easy, 5x. The arbitrary constant always gets tacked on to the end of an antiderivative. And whatever I have here, it's going to be 8 times the antiderivative of x to the 4. What is the antiderivative of x to the 4 according to that rule? 1/5 x to the 5th. I find the new power and I multiply by its reciprocal. What will be the antiderivative of x to the negative 2?
6 over negative, 1 over
Negative
1.
x to the negative 1. What will be the antiderivative of x to the 1/2?
3 over x minus 3 over 2.
Show off. How can you convince yourself that that's correct?
Take the derivative.
Take the derivative. Take the derivative. If I take the derivative here, what will I get?
8x to the 4.
I get 8x to the 4. If I take the derivative here, what happens when I bring down the 5?
1 over 5 cancels.
It cancels. I get 8x to the 4. When I take the derivative here, what happens to the minus 1? Cancels with that, positive. I get 6x to the negative 2. What happens when I take the derivative here?
Cancels.
2/3 and 3/2 cancel. I get 3x to the 1/2. Yes, sir?
Larry, where did you get 2/3 from for the x?
Yeah. Well, what I do is I add 1 to the power, 3/2, right?
Yeah.
And I multiply by its reciprocal. So you look up here. I add 1 to the power,
Oh,
and I multiply by the reciprocal. So here's our first big rule of antiderivatives. When you want the antiderivative of x to the n, you add 1 to n and you multiply by the reciprocal of the new power. By the way, there's one power that this doesn't work for. What is that? What will give you a 0 there?
-1.
N to the negative 1. So in other words, this is as long as n is not equal to a -1. So in other words, if somebody asks you for the antiderivative of that, you don't know what it is. I'll go ahead and tell you, just in case you want a little preview of Calc 2. Y prime, it turns out, is an old friend of yours, the natural log of x. Oh boy! We don't do that in this class. That's Calc 2. And it's like day 1 or day 2 of Calc 2. Or, well, except for maybe, depending on who your Calc 2 teacher is, you'll do a little bit of a Calc 1 review. Questions?